Now comes the part where we throw our heads back and laugh. Ready?
Ready!
Let's take this seriously. What does the article say exactly? After all, this could just be clickbait, someone being misquoted, something someone said being misrepresented. So, for the sake of the video, let's just take it seriously, read what it says. First off, this is actually a report from Deserto. Okay, good. Let's go onto their website to find the real journalism. The quote is, "We hope to get more results in the male tournaments and to prove we are a better team and that we can compete with the male teams. Maybe not tier 1, but tier 2 and 3. So, is this realistic? Should we believe these players can compete with tier 2 and tier 3 men's teams in Counter-Strike? Let's start off by taking a look at how skilled these players are. Firstly, I'll get ahead of the smartasses in the world. Yes, they're better than me. That's not difficult, also not what we care about here. More importantly, how do they compare to the skill level of an average pro? The best way to judge would be to look at some kind of even playing field, such as the FACEIT or ESEA online matchmaking. Everyone knows that pros tend to compete in the FACEIT Pro League, so how many of these players have actually made it there? None. None have. Mimi has come the closest. I believe she made it to the final qualifier, but that's it. There's only ever one recorded instance of a woman making it to the FPL, and that was Katie in NA.
Ooh, I'm staying out of this one.
So now we know how good they are individually. How good are they as a team, as a group? So how much better can they be as a collective, essentially? We have seen these women compete against men not too long ago. DreamHack Open Rotterdam invited them to compete. Yeah, it didn't go well. They played against a Vanguard and Hard Legion and got absolutely annihilated. Over the 3 maps they played, they managed 7 rounds. To be fair, it was a slightly different roster. They had Blackie, a questionably named Dutch guy, instead of Mimi. If we want to expand our sample size, we can include all games played where 3 of these women were playing together against men, but it doesn't get much better. The most they ever managed was 12 rounds in a single map against an Epsilon team who just won the first map 16-0 and were playing with 2 stand-ins, so it's fair to say they weren't playing their best Counter-Strike. I don't see it, personally. If they want to compete with tier 2, tier 3 teams, if we take the most generous interpretation of what is tier 3 and extend it all the way down to the bottom of tier 3 is rank 100 in the world, that team is Wings Up, who featured DD, previously of Tyloo, and they play in the Chinese region. They are capable of competing with the top 2 teams in the Chinese region. I just don't see how they can beat any of the teams in the top 100 when you look at the bottom end of it, and they're still just a class above. What's the solution? Well, I just don't think this roster's good enough, to be honest. Zaz and Giuliano are older than 25, which we've seen historically with men in Counter-Strike means they're not going to get any better. I don't think they have ever been good enough to compete with men, honestly. The player I rate the highest has been Mimi, but she's not good enough by herself to carry this team. The women's scene needs younger, better players. That's all there is to it. And that's only going to come over time if more and more females pick up the game, but seeing as how CS isn't exactly the most fashionable game right now, I doubt people who are new to gaming at the age of like 13, 14, especially in regions like the US or the Nordic countries where they can afford to go off and play any new game, I doubt they're going to be playing CS, so I don't see there being an end in sight. I think if we ever see a women's team compete at the top level, or even close to it in tier 2 and tier 3, they would have to come out of Russia. I don't think any other region still has as much youth interest as the Eastern Bloc. I also believe that all these female tournaments have actually managed to achieve is parading women out in an esports setting for sponsorship and virtue signaling, rather than actually sincerely wanting to develop them into elite pros. We've seen them compete against other women. They've done it for prize money. No one really watches it, even though they have massive prize pools at some of these events. And it clearly doesn't raise the overall level of their game to a point to where they can compete with even the worst men's teams. It hasn't achieved that basic goal. An idea I've been mulling over is if an organizer such as ESL or Flashpoint, who runs these sort of exclusive leagues, Flashpoint is more overtly exclusive, even if they do have a qualifier, it is more overtly exclusive than, say, ESEA, Mountain Dew League and things like that. If they decided to have a development league where they brought in really raw, unproven talents, and they put some of the best female teams in there, maybe there'd be a chance that they'd gain the experience needed against higher skill level players, because they'd actually be playing week in, week out, not just once every 3 months, paraded on stage to play against each other for 50 grand, so the sponsors can feel good about themselves. Like, maybe then we could develop a real scene. But as it is right now, I don't see it happening, ever. So yeah, that's all for this one. Goodbye.